Don't know about you, but I'm feeling strangely arty this morning. Today, I'm at Dunstanburgh Castle on the Northumberland coast near the fishing village of Crest. And I'm here because of one man, Joseph Turner, who was arguably Britain's greatest landscape painter. The castle was built in the 14th century, and it was already a ruin when Turner came here in 1797. The artist made some sketches, went away and never returned. But he used those sketches in later life to create a number of different oil paintings, often adding things that weren't there in the original scene, as we'll see. This print was based on one of Turner's sketches. It includes a strange detail that never existed in actuality. This little house is a complete fabrication. The ground there is too marshy, and there's no evidence that a house was ever built there. But Turner did like to do this. He did like to add things to pictures to improve the composition or to add scale or grandeur to a painting. Now, as photographers, we can't do this. We can't add things to pictures. Well, we can, but we don't do that kind of thing now, do we? So I'm going to explore this coastline today. Now, it's probably been shot millions of times before. That might be a slight exaggeration, but probably not far off the mark. I've certainly been here countless times before, so I might struggle to find anything new. But it's always fun to explore. I really like this stretch of coastline. It's perhaps one of my favourite on the Northumbrian coast. So we should find something of interest. And I think we'll start a wee bit further from the castle. Goodness, but it's cold this morning. I wish I'd put an extra layer on, which is letting the side down a bit, given that I'm from Newcastle. You know, I should just be here in a t-shirt, shouldn't I? Yeah, perhaps not. Now, when it comes to the coastline, I do like to be safe rather than sorry. So I always check the tides, which is why I know that the tide is coming in, and that high tide is at 1 o'clock. So there is danger of getting cut off, which is why I'm not going to go anywhere too silly. Checking the tides is really easy in the UK. By far the simplest way to do this is to go to the BBC website, to the weather section, which has the tides up to 7 days in advance. But I also use iTides, or YI tides, given that I'm from Newcastle, which gives you tides far in advance of this. I think at least several months in advance. So it's really good for planning trips. You can actually do it far ahead of time and be certain that when you get to this location, the tides are going to do what you think they're going to do, and you can sort of plan to be safe rather than be sorry. Never ever end a photographic session by getting rescued by a helicopter. That is just the ultimate in embarrassment and expense. So I've got this shot set up, and as you can see, it's very similar to Turner's original composition, but there are one or two details which are missing from my shot because I'm actually shooting reality. Turner could make things up as he liked. And I'm shooting in a sort of slight panoramic, so a 16:9, and I think that works because everything's very horizontal, you know, the rocks and the castle, and I'm not sure it really suited the 4:3 native aspect ratio of the Micro Four Thirds camera. So I think, yeah, the panoramic crop works well. I'm shooting in manual exposure mode, and I'm going to use a very slight long exposure, just half a second. I think with a longer exposure, because the sea's coming in quite quickly and there's a lot of foam, I think a second or more exposure, the sea will just become a white mass. So I think half a second is just enough to capture some movement, to create a sense of movement. But any longer than that, I think it wouldn't work in this situation. So I'm going to take this shot. If it works, I shall of course pop it on screen, and then I'll go and look for another location somewhere a bit further south, heading towards Crest itself. I've got this shot set up. Now ironically, given how cloudy it was before, I actually wanted a softer light on this, so I wanted no direct sunlight on this scene, because with the sun having come out now, and it came out as soon as I got set up, which is the reverse of what usually happens, because the sun came out, the contrast is much higher, and I actually want a softer light on this so that the scene is evenly lit from the foreground through to the background. At the moment, this foreground rock is nicely lit, but the rocks which form that nice curve over there, they're in shadow, so it's hard to see the detail. Now I could raise that shadow detail later, but personally I think I'd prefer softer light, more even light across the scene, and less contrast. I'm hoping there is some cloud on the horizon, that the sun will be covered for a few seconds at some point soon. I'll get the shot hopefully. If it works, I'll pop it on screen. But after this, I'm going to head south towards Crest, perhaps shoot around the village itself, or there are still some nice waves. I might see about shooting some wave action. And then I'm going to head back towards the castle and shoot it from the north side. But yeah, in the meantime, here's the shot. I've gone with waves, which is no reflection on Crest, which is a very pretty village, highly recommended if you're in the area. But these waves are great. I mean, we're past high tide now, so they are going to ebb over the course of the afternoon. But at the moment, they're still really dramatic. I'm shooting them with a telephoto, because I really don't want to get too close to the water's edge. I'm shooting them backlit, because that's helping to emphasize the shape of the waves. Fast shutter speed, to try and freeze the movement, and a high ISO in order to get that fast shutter speed. If any of these work, I'll pop them on screen after this, and then I think head back to the castle. Well, I'm back at Turner's View, and it's late afternoon. The light is pleasant. There's a nice side lighting on the castle, but it's not dramatic. There's virtually no cloud in the sky now. But I've got the shot set up, and I think it's going to be okay. It's not going to be a great shot. I think it's, yeah, the light's not particularly interesting. But this is all about timing now. Got the camera set up on a tripod. I'm going to use a longish exposure, half a second, again to convey some movement in the waves, but not so much that the waves are just a white, featureless mass. And because the camera's on a tripod, I don't have to look through the viewfinder. The shot's set up already, so I can watch to see what's happening with the waves, and then time the shot when I want it. Now this could be one coming up, so I'll just take a shot. We're north of Dunstanburgh Castle now. That's the little burn tower you can see in the inset. This is more of a summer shot typically. In the summertime, the sun rises in the northeast and lights that crag first thing in the morning, which is truly splendid on the right day. And in wintertime, the sun's setting in the southeast, but it's still sort of just kissing that tower and the corner of that crag over there. So it's still quite an attractive light. And there's some interesting clouds just forming now. I'm going to use a long exposure, secondish or so, just to kind of smooth out some of this choppiness. There's a bit of foam on the water as well, which is a bit messy, but hopefully that might get sort of smoothed out with the long exposure. Wide angle lens. So I'm going to take a shot. If it works, I'll pop it on screen after this. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video on what I think is a truly splendid piece of Northumbrian coast. Not sure where I'm going to go next time. Possibly outside of Northumberland. We'll see. In the meantime though, please do share, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.